right, so basically, I first started playing Street Fighter back in 1991 when Street Fighter 2 came out in the arcades. Um, Around that time, the arcade boom had a resurgence, if you will, because of that game. The arcade industry was kind of going down a little bit, and that Street Fighter 2 game just ignited everybody's love for hanging out at the arcades and stuff like that, which I did on a regular basis as a kid anyway, as most people my age did. Um, and of course, I mean, there you would always go into an arcade and you'd play, something like Pac-Man or something, which is one of my favorite games too of all time. And you try to compete to get the highest score that's on, display there at the time. Whereas with Street Fighter, you're actually competing against the other person right next to you. And that definitely made for, some intense moments back in the local arcades back in the day, and still to this day. And that was probably the first big adrenaline rush that many people had playing a game physically against somebody, if you will. And it started there. And matter of fact, when I was in 8th grade, there was actually a local taco cabana near where I lived at the time. And I would spend many days there, like during the summer or something, where no one would really be there eating that much. But out of all the games they had there, they had a Street Fighter 2 machine there, and that's kind of weird to hear people talk about Taco Cabana today. But I did that, and I spent many quarters there. And in addition to the local arcade where I played it at growing up, as well as even other grocery stores. I mean, grocery stores had a Street Fighter 2 machine. I mean, you couldn't, it was out there just like a Pac-Man game was. If you go to a store or something, you either see a Pac-Man or a Street Fighter or some combination of the two, and well, there it is, playing Street Fighter. So that's kind of how it all started with me. And of course, when it got ported to the Super Nintendo or Genesis, whichever system you had at the time, me and my buddies, we actually all chipped in together to buy Street Fighter 2 for SNES. Which I think at the time it was it was really expensive at the time. I think maybe it was $60 maybe or something, for 1991 for a SNES game. That's a lot of money. I dare say it was 80. I can't quite remember, but it was more expensive than others, and we all chipped in and bought it. And my friend Brian, he ended up, he pitched in the most, so he kept it, but we all bought it because we wanted to all play it at his house and things like that. So, and of course, once he got it for the home system, I guess what we were doing at nights on the weekends or something, we were at his house playing. So that was like early 91, 92, and then it just took off from there. Throughout the 90s, the different versions came out, like Turbo and Hyper Fighting, and then eventually Super, and then the arcade Super Turbo. Myself, along with just a few others, would continue to play it at different people's houses and stuff, and it was that's all we did. And of course, all the spin-off ones that came after that, like the Alphas and different versions like that at the time. And then of course Mortal Kombat came around, because of Street Fighter and things like that. I mean, but my time in the 90s with fighting games was pretty intensive around Street Fighter, around that time, yeah. My favorite Street Fighter, I mean, really it's the one that I play mostly to this day. It's the Super Turbo version of Super Street Fighter 2. That the Super Turbo ST, as it's called, Grandmaster Challenge, if you're in Japan. That's the version that I play pretty much almost daily with my buddies at Free Play. And I mean, it was because of the people friends I made at Free Play, and the community, the strong community that's around Super Turbo at Free Play. I mean, it caused me to go out and get my own version of Super Turbo for home, so you can play it at home, or have some friends over and play it at home too, just from my own personal collection. That would be probably the most, obviously, easiest question there is for me playing that game. But growing up though in the 90s, I mean, really my favorite version was Turbo. in my area, really, there wasn't Super Turbo when it came out in '94 in the arcades. None of the arcades I went to had it at the time. The place where I used to live, when it did come out, I was only there for a couple months, and one arcade did get it, but I was actually living out of town, and then I moved back to Dallas, and none of my old arcades here never got it. Or at least the ones that I went to. I don't know who maybe around here did get it, if they ever did. So I never really got to experience Super Turbo when it first came out, originally. So during that time, it was the turbo version, or hyper fighting, if you will. So that came out after World Warrior did for SNES, and of course that's the version I got eventually. And of course, being turbo, faster, and play as the other character. Like two people could play Ken. That's the whole thing. That was fun. Play as the bosses. You couldn't do that prior. With World Warrior. So, but yeah, obviously today though it is the Super Turbo version. I'm positive in the fact that the franchise is still continuing with 5, and then now the 5 Arcade Edition that just came out. When 5 first came out a couple of years ago, it got mixed reviews at best. Most people weren't happy with it, but everyone played it, right? It was the thing. It was popular. It's the newest. It's that new toy, right? And then of course they made patches, and then they made the Arcade Edition, and then now the Champion Edition. That's out for the game. That's pretty much got everything that they've released in the past 2 years all in one, right? I'm happy that it's still progressing, right? With 4, I didn't play 4 too much when it first came out, as much less 3 or any of the 3 versions, like Second Impact, New Generation, Third Strike. I kind of stopped when Third Generation came out, mainly because my favorite character wasn't in it, which is Sagat. So I didn't play 3 that much, but 3 in its own right is very, very good. And it's a totally different game than Super Turbo, if you will. The mechanics are different. You have the parry, all those things, and of course with the famous Evo moment 37, happening. People still go back and look at that for that happening in Third Strike, and the magic that that happened. That essentially just, to me, kept the fighting game genre going, because during that time I personally wasn't gaming too much. At this point, obviously, like a lot of my high school friends and stuff that I did play with, we all moved away or stopped playing. Life happens, adulting happens, that whole thing. Different interests take over, and so I personally wasn't gaming that much, but I did get 4 for PlayStation 3. I did play it a little bit, but yeah, this is great, it's cool, but I wasn't actively in any community or anything like that. I didn't even know, of any of my friends that I had at the time were even playing it or nothing like that. So I kind of took a step back and watched things happen from afar. And obviously I did hear of tournaments and things like that happening, but I just personally wasn't in, active member in gaming or communities or anything like that. So, all that kind of passed me by. Free play happened. That's essentially when I got back into gaming, if you will. Like just before free play opened, I was starting to collect retro games anyway, because that before it became the big boom that it was, maybe 5-6 years ago, where the case may be, I was already collecting retro games, and then like different little stores just start popping up, catering to that, and after that, like, oh yeah, this is cool, playing the old games I used to play back then on Nintendo or Super Nintendo, things like that, and of course, some I still had from my younger days anyway. I still had them, right? So I just said, like, yeah, I remember playing this. This is cool. This is fun. This is still fun. I like this better than some of the current games that are out now. Like more simpler, you know, but still challenging. And then a little free play happened, and then you know, my buddy Chris Delp, you know, who started that whole free play community before he was an employee with free play. You know, I met him in the early days of, you know, free play, and from there, you know, the free play community grew, and with that, Super Turbo, you know, came with it. And you know, it once free play got Super Turbo, and myself and another buddy named Sean, you know, we would just start playing it a lot, and those two were more familiar with the more technical aspects of the game, and were more familiar with the national ST community, if you will, and the worldwide community of ST, if you will, that I didn't know existed at the time. I didn't know people were still actively playing a 25-year-old game in a tournament style formats, or, you know, competitively in tournaments, things like that. But there was, you know, and again, that goes back to me just not gaming like I was, you know, like during the 2000s, if you will, you know, but it was still happening, and you know, all these other things. And so from there, it was like, you know, we started playing a lot more and started reading up on it, watching videos, and you know, then the first spring series happened at Free Play Arcade, and then, you know, we with the help of just a couple of guys who happened to hear about it, told some of the other longtime Super Turbo veterans over in California that, hey, there's this new community over here in Texas, you know, you should check them out or something. And you know, sure enough, first spring series happened. You know, like a lot of us local guys are, yeah, you know, like I think Free Play put like $1,000 up, you know, for top three, you know, at the time, you know, divided up. Was it 1,000? I don't think it was 1,000. It was 500. I don't remember. There's been so many of these things now, you know. But sure enough, we had a couple of out of towners come for the first spring series. I think they were from Houston, and you know, a couple other guys, and then it just took off from there. And then ever since then, Spring Series 2, Spring Series 3, you know, like we've had more and more out-of-town people come that are, you know, nationally known for Super Turbo, all the way till 2 years ago, where Free Play started bringing in Japanese, you know, grandmasters of the game, if you will. And you know, let me tell you, you know, playing the game as much as I have been in the past 4 years, if you will, you know, it's still learning. I mean, I'm nowhere near the same player as I was 4 years ago in the first spring series that I am today. You know, like if I were to play against myself 4 years ago, I would totally destroy myself because of what I know about the game today. You know, however, you take that up with a grandmaster of Super Turbo that's from Japan, like Odo-chan, who's the two-time defending Spring Series champion, and you know, you watch him play as Chun-Li, and it's like he wins when he wants to. Like, you know how sometimes you'll play against somebody who's not that experienced at the game, and you kind of maybe, you know, take it easy or something like that, and then all of a sudden you just turn it on and you beat him, you know. Well, that's this guy, but that's like times 100. You know, like he is that good at the game. And I mean, and of course all those guys from Japan, because they've been actively playing Super Turbo for, you know, 20 plus years, you know, like almost daily, you know, nonstop. So take that with our, you know, community that's, you know, roughly 4 years old, along with communities over in California and New York, you know, that have almost the same time, like 15 years or so, whatever the case may be for some of those guys. I mean, you know, the experience that those players have is phenomenal, and you know, hopefully we'll catch them as far as experience, things like that goes. But you know, the more we play against them, and the more you know, we, you know, practice amongst ourselves, you know, we'll get better. If you were to compare the two, I mean, the really common denominator between, you know, all the communities is the fact that they have such a strong love for Super Turbo. You know, I think really, if for any game out there, if you have strong love and support for a game, it'll thrive. It'll continue to thrive. And even with new players coming into the fold, like we've had in the past, at least, well, since we started, right? I mean, if you show them the love and passion for the game, they'll see that and they'll want to, take part and experience it too. And then they join in, and of course, granted, they may not be as experienced or something, but they'll you learn off of the experienced players. They'll teach each other, or show them tricks, things like this, how to practice it, and it grows, and that's how you grow a community. And by traveling over to California, like I have the past couple of years for the Spring Series qualifier, the cool thing about it is, you're playing against your friends all the time here, okay, and their style of play, right? However, when you travel, and especially us going to a more experienced area like California or even New York, where those players are like 10 plus years experience on the game. Their styles are different. They may do something that you have not seen before up close and personal. You might have maybe seen it on a video or something. Like, oh yeah, I gotta look out for that. Maybe if you're scouting or something like that. Oh yeah, this guy likes to do this type of technique or something. But when you actually experience it firsthand, it can be a shock to your system sometimes, like it was for me. Like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm ready. I know my techniques. I can, I should be able to hang with these guys all right, and you might be able to in certain cases. But then, they'll do stuff that's just like, whoa, I have not seen that before. I don't know how to counter that or be ready for it. And that type of experience right there is valuable into, as most people say, leveling up, and by going out to traveling to California like I have, I mean, that's just been number one, fun, because, I'm traveling, right? You get to, see an area that you're not used to or never been before, okay? And two, some of these people you've probably met online, right? Or they've been here and you met them. Now you go to their neighborhood, their backyard, get to hang out with them, and you play the same game that you both are passionate about, and you see their experiences with it and their techniques, and you learn from there, and then yourself, just that alone, you level up, So it's fun. And comparing the two, really the comparison is again, the underlining common denominator is the love for the game. So that's the joy I get out of it. It's kind of easy actually, and it's kind of all by chance. But obviously for me, everything starts at free play, right? Meeting and becoming good friends with Chris Delp. And watching him TO and run things, who's been, he's been an active, fighting game member, if you will, for years. He started off with Tekken, and he would travel for Tekken and things like that, back in the early 2000s and stuff. And he's run tournaments hand over fist, from way back then to now. So I mean, just that man is like a walking Bible, if you will, of TO. You know what I mean? Like, he's seen it and done it all. And he's obviously a valuable asset for free play. Because I mean, again, he started the community, the free play community. Like he's like the godfather, if you will. So helping him out, like when I first started going to free play with the Tuesday night fights, things like that, like I would kind of see, oh, okay, this is how you just basically run a tournament. This is how you set up a bracket. Like you set these players up like this, and you follow it this way. You gotta make sure you kind of know where everyone is at, so you can go get them and call them up. Because that's fun for every TO, is to go find a player that's ready to, that they're up right now. Right? That's always an adventure sometimes. And then from there, as our community grew, of course, you network and you meet new people. One of our other longtime Super Turbo players in the area. Chad Montgomery. He runs Big Texas Beer Fest. He also owns Civil Port, right? So with there, so those Civil Port gaming nights. I mean, he has his own shop. And like, hey, let's just throw some games out one day a month and have some fun with it. And that's kind of where I come in. Like, yeah, sure, I'll bring my home version of Super Turbo out. And, we'll just have some fun. That's basically it right there. And then with the Thursday Throwdown guys, Brian, right? Brian Greer. I met him, I think, 2 years ago. A lot of us traveled to Texas Showdown down in Houston for Super Turbo. They have a pretty nice Super Turbo tournament happening there, along with many of their other, games. And it's a huge event. It is considered a major, tournament event. And I met Brian down there just hanging out in the crowd, like, hey man, how you doing? This and that. Like, I had heard he was from Dallas. Oh yeah, I'm from Dallas. Oh cool, right, man, yes. All right, kick it when we get back home. All right, cool, That's how that happened. And then, of course, Brian and his crew, they started the Thursday Throwdown thing, and they wanted to incorporate some retro games. So, who do they call? Me. I just happen to have. Oh yeah, I just happen to have. Own version of Super Turbo. So let's just see how it goes. And so yeah, that's been pretty fun too. And with all those outside ventures, if you will, I always tell people, yes, we're playing on a super gun, which is basically what I like to, how I explain it to people who have never seen such a thing. I basically tell them, picture a Nintendo playing the arcade part on your TV. It's the easiest way to kind of explain it, oh, okay, yeah, cool. But it's nothing like, playing at free play on the actual arcade hardware, with the actual joysticks and, the machine, the big monitor in your face, all this stuff, So, for example, at the last Thursday Throwdown event, there was a young kid there who came with his parents, and they happened to be, the kid was like a Third Strike fan, and there he is, and he signs up. I'm talking with him. How did he hear about this? I start talking to his parents who were right there, and he's like, yeah. My son showed me, and his son was, I don't know how, I can't remember how old he was, but he was in his teens. I want to say maybe 14 or 15, somewhere around there, right? And he happened to see Evo Moment 37 online, right? So, he's 14 or 15 years old. When Evo Moment 37, he was probably, 8 or something like that, maybe 5. So he didn't know about it back then, right? But, he happened to see that moment for Third Strike, and his dad was telling me, yeah, he showed it to me, and he was like, yeah, dad, look, and his dad's like my age, right? And yeah, dad, look at this is cool, and this and that. Of course, his dad's familiar with Street Fighter 2, just like me back in the day. Oh yeah, I used to play that back in the day or something. And then sure enough, they were looking up Third Strike tournaments to see if there's anything happening, right, on Facebook. Enough, they found Thursday Throwdown, so that's how they found that event. And then I started telling them, I was like, yeah, this is the actual, arcade board. This is not the PS4 30th anniversary version. This is the actual arcade version that, they were playing back then. If you want more action like this, come to Free Play, where they have it on the actual arcade machines. That's if you want the actual authentic experience, you want to go to the Free Play. Come to Free Play, hang out with us, and I believe, I don't know if they've came out to Free Play yet. I only got his dad's business card, but I didn't make any more contact with him other than that. But I explained the whole thing to him, and I'm pretty sure they've come out to Free Play since then. I don't know if they have or haven't, but personally, but I mean that's basically how, you know, word spreads, right? You know, see something online, oh yeah, this is cool. Is there anything local like it? Oh yeah, this is here it is. And then all of a sudden you're speaking with, you know, somebody like me, where I was running it. Oh yeah, well, here's where you can get the full actual experience. You know, it's almost like I was playing Chris's role of liaison. You know, at both events. Same thing with Civil Corps. Of course, you know, usually with the Civil Corps guys, you know, I mean, these are people who I know anyway, so they already know the deal. Oh yeah, we can go to free play it too. But sometimes there's customers there at Civil Corps, and they're inquiring, hey, what is this? You know, like, I've never seen this. Like, again, tell them, hell yeah. But this is like a, you know, almost like the home version of, you know, of the game. Not so much a port, but if you want the real deal, go to free play for it. And that's what I tell, like, you know, certain people. It's fun. It's fun spreading the word like that, you know. It's almost like I'm a disciple of Chris. Yeah, I'm a disciple of Chris. I think he'll be here. I think he'll be pleased to hear that. That'd be fun, yeah. Or Corey, who owns Free Play. Maybe his minion. I don't know. Anyways, yeah. I see it lasting because here I am. I'm 42 years old now. And I'm actively playing a video game that came out 25 years ago, and you know, that, you know, I did play back then, right? And you know, even if you have, you know, adult responsibilities or, you know, things like that, you know, sometimes if you can make time to still play, you know, a game from back then, you know, you'll do it. You know, you can do it. You know, if you really, you know, loved playing a particular game. And I think with as far as like Street Fighter is concerned, with 30th anniversary coming out, like Capcom did for, you know, all the home systems, you know, it did introduce a younger, you know, demographic to the original Street Fighter 2 games. You know, to this day at Free Play, we have kids who, you know, come out and play with us, you know, that are under the age of 18, and a couple of them are really good. You know, we've had at least, you know, 3-star, you know, under the age of 18 players, you know, who, you know, still play with us from time to time, you know, and they play on PS4, you know, they'll practice on it, then they'll come to Free Play and play with us, things like that. And with places like Free Play, who, you know, solely, like their foundation is solely running the classic video games on the original hardware, you know, not emulated, you know, not ported, right? You know, it's that love and passion for the retro games that games like that fall into the fighting game community will still continue to thrive, because those are still being, you know, maintained and, you know, preserved at places like Free Play, things like that. And of course, you know, you might have, you know, other places that, you know, might have it on emulation or something like that, you know, but, you know, that's all well and good, I guess, you know, but, you know, at least maybe those people will see it, and if they're really true about playing it, then they'll seek out maybe, oh, I really want to play it for real, you know, they'll come to Free Play for it. And again, you know, you have the home versions of it. So, I mean, you know, who knows? Maybe Capcom will do a 40th anniversary release on PlayStation 18 or something like that. You know what I mean? You know, it's things like that that'll, you know, keep, you know, it'll keep it going. And of course, nowadays, I mean, it's cool for everything being retro, right? Retro is cool. Old school is cool, right? You know. So I think there'll always be, you know, a solid foundation with anyone of any age. You know, as long as you have the love and passion for a particular game, you know, it'll still continue on, especially if there's a community built around it. You know, and it doesn't have to be Super Toad. It could be, you know, I mean, there's still other active communities with the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 or even Third Strike. You know, those guys are just as passionate about their game as, you know, some of us are with Super Turbo, you know, and like I myself, I mean, those games I'm, not good at or anything like that, but I enjoy watching those guys, apply their craft, and just like any other fighting game, you see someone that's really good at playing a game, you sit back and watch them, you're like, oh man, that's a cool move that he just did, or oh wow, I can't believe he got out of that situation, all that type of stuff. I mean, that'll still continue to, keep the games alive. It's pretty cool that somebody from Peru saw your stuff. That's pretty cool, actually. But I guess being a part of the ST community organically from the ground up, I think probably my advice to them would be first find, like if you love a particular game, ask your friends like, hey, what if, hey, like we like playing this particular game amongst ourselves. Let's try to make a thing out of this. Let's make a community out of it, outside of just us, right? And maybe try to find a local venue or something that might have first the game that you want, right? If that's not available, you can try to acquire the game yourself, okay, and have some type of venue for it to be played at. And then from there, just kind of, as nowadays, post things online like, hey, in your local area, or send out flyers or something, like post flyers of, hey, tonight we're having a SNK fighting game night or something, come play with us in the tournament, $5 entry or something like that, and just kind of, see where it's at. And of course, you want to gauge before you maybe, like, depending on how much you want to spend on equipment, things like that, maybe just start off with something simple, like, maybe if it's available for PS4 or something, get it that way and just start it there, or if you want to really go all out and get arcade equipment, price it out, see if it matches with what you want to spend, and acquire it, and then have the means for people to play it with you, and just spread the word about it. I mean, we have people playing Super Turbo who weren't really playing this game maybe not even 4 years ago, right? That saw the love and passion we have for it, and they've joined us. The same thing with Third Strike. Like I see people playing Third Strike that weren't playing Third Strike 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, and right next to us. So I mean, it's as long as you have a particular love for a game, right? Or maybe if you want to just kind of go with what your local friends may think would be the best game to start off with, to really get into, go from there, and then be a welcoming community, invite new people. Hey, we have this game, come play with us, let me show you how to play, and you go from there. As long as you're welcoming, friendly, and you have the same love and desire for a particular game, then your community will grow and thrive. That'd be my advice.